Our next guest is the president of EDUStaff. We welcome Clark Galloway. Hey, Clark.
How are you? Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
And you as well.
EDUStaff, short for educational staffing.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's you're in the substitute teacher business?
Yes, we are. We work primarily with Michigan's public K-12 school districts. We partner with their intermediates. When we say the intermediates, in this particular case, Jackson County ISD, to perform the sub-services for Jackson County.
So the old way, and I think when we were growing up, you know, even in some cases, teachers had to arrange their own substitute.
To an extent, a lot of things have changed, Bart. When you consider even as much as 7 to 8 years ago, when you look at a particular county, where in this case, where there's 12 constituent public school systems, a substitute would graduate from college, they would have their teaching certificate, and they would say, all right, I need to break into the school system to hopefully become a teacher. And in doing it, they'd be employed by Jackson Public Schools. They would also go to East Jackson and say, will you employ me as well? And walk up to Northwest and say, hey, I'm a new applicant. Will you please employ me? And before you know it, the typical substitute teacher would have 4, 5, sometimes 6 different employers, different orientation systems, different calling systems, different paychecks. And really what had happened from those days, really this whole process was crying out for a centralized solution. So what we did is we started looking at intermediates, because they're typically on a county by county basis, and said, we can do this better. We can bring some efficiencies and some savings to the school district as well as the ISD. And so now the model has morphed to a single employer, a single process, a single training, a single management, and a single payroll solution. But most importantly, a single dispatching system where if one school district were to call this individual, then it coordinates with all the other school systems, so there's not competing interests in that particular day.
And each district, they would, if it was a bad day or flu season, they'd at the HR or even the principal level, they'd have to scramble and dial people up?
You know, there was a lot of scrambling in days past, and frankly, there could be even some scrambling even yet today. When we consider the need for substitute services and people to work in our public schools, granted, it has become less of a concern. And when we start looking at a county-wide basis, we have a larger pool of people to draw from. And as a result, where there is a need in a particular school, if there's a virus that has broken out in a particular school district, or let's even say, for the sake of discussion, there's professional development at one school, what you'll find is the full countywide pool will begin to work towards the need of any individual or given school district.
Substitutes can then be a career substitute teacher.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we are starting to see a shift or a paradigm change in substitute services. I go back to 2006, 2007, when this concept was brand new in the state of Michigan, and I would stand outside of the enrollment lines where we'd be meeting people to come in into orientation, and I would have 70, 80 people lined up out the door with their teaching certificate as recent graduates saying, I'm ready to enter the sub pool. Nowadays, it's moms and dads, grandparents, sometimes retired teachers. The average median age of our substitute teacher now is 37 years old. So the dynamics have changed of the people that are working in the classroom.
Does a substitute have to meet the same standards and certification as a regular teacher? You know,
it really depends on the county, on a county by county basis. But here in Jackson and its surrounding districts and counties, we go with the state criterion. In this particular case, it is 90 credit hours towards a bachelor's degree with at least a 2.0 grade point average. So a person who wants to be a substitute teacher, they don't have to be educationally minded, they don't have to have an education degree, they don't have to have their teaching certificate. Frankly, what we are looking for people who have children in mind, love to work with children, and are interested in serving in their local public school districts.
Substitute teachers in my schools were always kids thought it was a free pass day when we had a substitute.
You know, I'm not sure if things have changed that much, but you know, the nice thing is when you walk into any school district, albeit an urban school district or even a rural school district, you're going to find a few people here that want to take advantage of one of our substitutes. We spend a lot of time working with them and training them, and really half of the training is classroom management. How do you handle that situation? I think gone are the days that you look at a substitute teacher as being simply a babysitter in the school district. When you look at technology in the classroom, the needs of a classroom, the seriousness of passing criminal history backgrounds and all those types of things, what we're looking for is really that person who can manage a classroom and who want to work with children. At that point, it's a self-driven understanding of where does it go from here. So it's not as big of a deal as people would think in the past. Sometimes people would look at the public school district and say, how do I get a job here? And most of our people are employed out from underneath us. As a matter of fact, when we go to look for substitutes, and when I say substitute, it's not just simply substitute teachers. We're providing services for the Jackson County Intermediate, for vocational educational positions, for substitute teachers in those roles, as well as teacher assistants. And teacher assistants don't have to have that 90-day or that 90 credit hour criterion. You look at a local public school district, obviously substitute teachers, special education programs, paraprofessionals. Now these are people who are working with some of our special needs students one-on-one. And those people simply need to have a high school graduation certificate. So some people might say, this isn't for me. What we're trying to show you is it absolutely can be for you. Our districts are in what I'd call a need for people to fill these particular positions. You kind of wonder, how often is a substitute needed in a classroom? In the state of Michigan, a substitute is needed on average 17 to 18 days in a given school year. Now that's averaging in some of our longer term assignments as well, but that's 1 in 10 classes. 1 in 10 classes in a public school system is taught by a substitute teacher. If you push those statistics out to a statewide basis, that means that in just the state of Michigan alone, there are 15,000 substitutes in the classroom at any given moment. And if I look at the statistics of what we're fighting here on a day-by-day basis with today's economic environment, which is frankly a good environment for those people who are looking for jobs, I could easily go on a statewide basis of between 800 to 1,500 unfilled classrooms who need a substitute to help us.
So they got the gym teacher or the secretary filling in.
Absolutely, and sometimes even a principal is pulled out of the administration to cover. Sometimes our substitutes are pulled on their prep hour to say, come help. And so it helps all the parties involved, but specifically the children, to bring continuity to that educational environment to make sure that we can provide a substitute.
It sounds like you need people.
We do. We need a lot of people to step up. And it's not that it's a bad environment, it's a great environment. It's a job opportunity. These people, when you consider most of our parapros, they are hired directly into the school systems. I would say we lose easily a third of our sub pool directly into direct employment with our school districts on an annual basis. So that's work for us. If you consider the fact that, hey, we're here on your show today talking about this. We have billboards in the county. We have billboards on Interstate 127, just bringing this concept to the surface and saying, we need substitute teachers. We're, gone are the days where print ad helps out a lot. Gone are the days of traditional reaching out to people, because when you consider the millennial group of people and others, we're even purchasing ad time on Pandora to get people's attention and say, there's a need in your schools. It just may be that there are people that are home who are retirees, moms, dads, who could go into a school district with at least 90 credit hours. I've got my bachelor's degree. I could go in and teach. It typically starts around $80 a day. And if you consider the fact that they're in the classroom for 7 hours, teaching for about 5.5 hours of that time, some of these people could actually be home before their children get off the bus. And sometimes a mom would say, don't put me in a high school environment. And sometimes we wouldn't want them either. And when they go through our orientation process, they can choose whether they want to have these particular classes or what days they want to work, whether it be in an elementary environment or a middle school environment. It is total choice and total selection. And the nice thing about this job is it's variable to the days that you're available, and it's variable to the days that you physically wanted to perform the task.
So you could say, I only want to work Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Absolutely. What's interesting, Bart, is our biggest needs are on, obviously, Mondays and Fridays. And, and sometimes teachers have allocations of their days off or time off and personal days. And as we start getting into the latter half of the year, starting here upcoming in March, we typically have a great need for substitutes, specifically in Mondays, Thursdays, but most importantly, Fridays.
Wonder why.
Well, sometimes we may find our substitutes in the same places those teachers are. You know, it's an amazing business. It's a very interesting business to be in. The nice thing is, being a substitute teacher, you've got to be able to love children and love people. And I guess the second thing is really we look at substitute services as being a gift of service to our community. And it's not as difficult as people would think to come into the particular sub pool and start working.
Certainly, there are extended illnesses and maternity leaves and things like that. Outside of those long-term situations, what would a typical assignment be? A
typical assignment would, let me back up a little bit of a step here. When a sub has been approved and enters into our sub pool, they're given several ways to find that job. We use a system called the ASOP, it's an Automated Educational Systems Operator System. It's just simply known as ASOP. And it will have telephones where you will receive phone calls of jobs that are available. You can call the system to look for jobs that are available. It is on the internet. You can look on a website to see all the jobs that will fit your criterion. We have a Jobulator application that's on smartphones that you can look at all the available jobs that would fit your criterion. And so if you look at all those pieces, plus emails that go out to offer jobs, it is very easy to say, hey, do I want to take this position or don't I? Then just pass on it if you don't want to do that particular work. So the needs arise. Sometimes jobs are known. As a matter of fact, most of the jobs are known. 3/4 of jobs available are known days in advance because they're planned absences for teachers. It could be a lot of training that happens with teachers when they go to the ISD and have training classes with other teachers. And sometimes we have a heads up from districts as well. We put out that need to our sub pool.
Do you just handle staffing for K-12?
Well, K-12 is primarily, I would say, with substitute staffing services for teachers, paraprofessionals, aides in the classroom. I would say 80% or 75% of what we do is in the classroom. We do provide substitute services for food service, for custodial. And interesting, another dynamic that's happening with our business is we're starting to enter into relationships with community colleges. And if you consider them on the community college front, an adjunct professor as well is coming in. It could be somebody like you or I who have our profession, but in the evening would want to tackle a class. And so here in Jackson County, we have a contract with the Jackson County Community College, and we're providing all of their adjunct services as well. So we're pulling from the adjunct pool to help us in our sub pool on the K-12 side, and vice versa as well.
If someone is interested and they want to sign up, take me through the process.
Well, simply this. When I say simple, obviously there's a task to any employment. We want to make that task as easy as possible, starting with logging onto our website. It's EDUStaff.org, EDUStaff.org. And there, at that point, there's information about the different districts and counties that utilize our services. We provide services for about 190 school districts in the state of Michigan. Districts that are even close to Jackson, as well as Calhoun County, their districts, as well as districts in Monroe County, some districts that are also in Ingham and Eaton. So even around the territory, if somebody lives in a county border, there's opportunities. But once they go to our website, we list their criterion for those positions and what it takes. And if they're ready to apply, they start a step-by-step process of signing up and going through all the profiles to see how this positions would work for them. And once it's all done, they print off their application and they come to a pre-assigned meeting at the Jackson County ISD, and we typically hold a 2-hour orientation meeting with them face-to-face to make sure that they get a really good firm grip of what to expect in that classroom. And then we release them. We release them to serve with us in our local schools, and then we become available to help them with online chat features, our 800 number, which is on our website as well. They are an extension of who we are. We provide those services to the school districts, and we want to be accessible and work with them to make sure that they are happy with what the job that they're performing at the school district.
Sounds like the need is there so that someone could make this essentially a full-time job.
Very much so. And what's interesting is if you want to deem this to be a full-time job, my mom always used to say, the cream and coffee always rises to the top. Your good people always get picked off in your school districts. And the same holds true in a substitute pool.
Right.
If you don't, even if you don't want to become a full-time teacher and you just simply want to serve in varying positions in different school districts, that opportunity is there.
How about you? Were you a teacher at one point?
You know, I wasn't. I came up in the business world. I had experience with working with benefits, with human resources. I was a controller, working in automotive for a long period of time. Actually, cut my teeth 10, 12 years ago, coming into education, working on negotiations and working with benefits, which would work with human resource departments. And I've got to give my credit to a school district in Holland, Michigan. When Carol Menard said to me, an HR director, she said, "Clark, there's a huge need for contracting in our schools, and it seems like you have the skill set to form a company to do this. Would you consider this?" And the whole process started with 2 counties on the west side of the state, and it just morphed across the state of Michigan over about a 3-year period.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, it's something that's new, and I now know why. It's new.
Absolutely. It's a very unique concept. We have been absolutely blessed to be in the cutting edge of this, and we're excited about the services that we can provide for our school districts.
And it's happening now, right here in Jackson.
As we speak, right now, we probably have 350 people in this county alone working for our public schools with EDUStaff.
Okay. If you're interested, visit EDUStaff.org and take it from there.
Sounds great. Thanks for the opportunity, Bart.
Appreciate you coming in today.
Yes.
The president of EDUStaff, Clark Galloway.